wonder why your middle schooler seems moody, distant, or suddenly hard to reach? In part two of this episode, counselor Carmen Bengoa shares what's really beneath the surface and how parents can rebuild connection, calm, and trust through some of the toughest years growing up. So stay tuned. Focusing on the clients and your individual interaction with these middle schoolers, what did you see them saying to you? Like, tell my parent this, or tell adults this because I'm so sick of this. Like, how do they want to be seen?
Whatever they're dealing with, it can be as simple as I need this shirt for school. I have to go get this shirt in order to just feel good about myself. As an adult, we might minimize that, right? That's not important. But as an adolescent, they want adults to understand how important that shirt is for them, or how important it is for them to be able to go to this party or to go to dirt biking. As we as adults realize in the big picture of their lifespan, they're probably not going to remember that shirt at 40 years old. It's not going to be of value to them, but it is a value and it is really important then. And so a lot of adolescents will say to me, my parents just don't understand, which translates to they're not seeing how I'm feeling about this situation. They're telling me my feeling is wrong, or my feeling is inaccurate, or my feeling is too much.
And I think we can all relate to that, right? As a high schooler, as a middle schooler, thinking back on those days, if we haven't blocked them out, I can remember feeling that way. Like they have no idea. They totally don't understand. So you go to other people when you just feel like you're talking to a wall. Like I remember, and even with clients, what they've said to me, feeling like I'm just being talked at. I'm being lectured all the time. Like adults really love the sound of their own voice sometimes. And it's just so much lecture and advice giving instead of eliciting responses, asking them, empowering them to make their own decisions or talk through things. It sounds almost like you're saying also to listen more and give more validation so that they feel more seen. Is that right?
Yeah. I would say that most adolescents understand the parents' boundaries. Like in session or in my school office, when they are outside of that moment of the escalation or conflict, they can rationalize and tap into that frontal cortex of, I get why my parents don't want me to do this, or I understand why my parents can't do this. That's not necessarily the conflict. The conflict for them is just, I'm trying to figure out my own way and I don't like your rule. I see your rule. I understand your rule. What I'm not feeling is that you see or understand my need.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to focus on. I don't think a lot of parents, and I'm even thinking about my own kids, do I understand what their boundaries are? Could they articulate it? And if they're saying it over and over, am I really hearing it for what it is, or is it just something that I push aside? So, what are things that you commonly hear from kids that they're saying that maybe their parents aren't picking up on? Do you have any examples?
Most commonly is, I would just say my parents just don't understand what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And I would just over and over again. And when working with the family system, what I notice most coming up for parents is they're really afraid and they're parenting from more of, I want to shut this down, as we learned that we could do in the younger age. It was easier if we think about it. If a baby is crying, we're going to feed that, we're going to change their diaper, and we're going to probably rock them to sleep, and we're going to shut that down. It was so simple most of the time. And if that doesn't work, we're probably going to schedule the pediatrician and see if they have some other physical ailment that needs attention. But it was pretty simple. Now we have this complex being. And the other thing is that they need to push boundaries.
Yeah.
In order to survive, they need to push the boundaries. It's just part of the developmental stage. If we can understand that, if we can find comfort in that, my child isn't doing this to learn how the world works in order to develop how they're going to be and how they're going to survive when they leave my home.
Yeah. I love how you said that. It's changing this narrative, this normal phase of development. It's normal to push boundaries. And I remind my clients of that oftentimes, like when they get so frustrated with their kids during certain developmental stages. I'm like, let's normalize that a little bit because that is normal. That is healthy development. And you don't have this terrible human child that you need to make sure that they're obeying you. Otherwise, it's a reflection of you as a terrible parent. Like you said, that fear based part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are afraid. And I will say the other thing that I hear from adolescents so often is my parents are mad at me. My parents are mad at me. And the way we are speaking to children in our tone is going to translate as, I am mad that you miss curfew. When we sit down with a parent and we talk to them about what is the most upsetting part about them missing curfew, is I'm worried they're not safe.
Yeah.
That's not being translated in our communication to our adolescents.
That's one thing I have noticed a lot actually with my daughter, specifically my middle schooler, is I didn't want you to be mad at me. And the way that she talks, it's like, I'm not a scary person and I don't yell. Very rarely do I yell as a parent, but I have to remember my nonverbals, and she's more of an empath, very sensitive to those things. Actually, this just happened yesterday. She was coming at me, raising her voice, very angry. She was actually the angry one. And she's, but you're getting mad at me. I'm like, maybe that's happened in the past, but I'm really calm right now and you're really angry. I think sometimes they anticipate or there's fear there that we're also going to be mad, but are we really? But that might be one aspect. But I think more often than not, sometimes my tone or my nonverbals might show angry when, like you said, it might be a fear thing or it might be preoccupation or whatever it might be, there's something else going on, and they are really picking up and really afraid of our fear and what that means for them.
That goes back to the safety that I talked about in the beginning. If I am fearful of my parent and their response, I'm not going to have this open communication with them.
Exactly. So, all of the things that you told us, Carmen, can you tell us then how we know if something else is up? I know you're not a mind reader, none of us can be, but how do we know when we pass that point and it's no longer just normal stuff and something else is up and we don't want to miss those signs because what if we miss that window where we can really help them?
Mhm. One of the things that I always really pay attention to is how is all of this affecting their life? So we have this normal stage of development, right? That's happening within us. We also have this normal stage of development that is happening outside of us. So is this creating isolation? Isolation in teen is one thing we need to be really mindful of. We are meant to live in community. We are meant to connect. We are meant to be social creatures. We need that socialization again for survival. So one is looking at isolation. One of the other things is kids will say they don't want to go to school at this age. I hear it every day. How many people want to go to school every day? That's not uncommon for a child to say that. However, if a adolescent is faking sick, if they are skipping, missing the bus on different things where they are no longer attending school, if it is crying and panic attacks, there's some anxiety that might be happening, some social anxiety that could be coming up there. And sometimes it's the need of, yes, we need to go talk to a counselor, or maybe we need to do some type of evaluation. There is that route. And sometimes, which I love now about our school, is there's so many options to meet the needs of our kids. And the traditional school isn't always the option for our child,
Yeah.
which the workplace we choose to go to as adults is so unique in itself. And we create that environment to fit our needs. So if we look at our children as school is their job, school is their work, and this environment, if it's environmental factors leading to resisting school, then it's okay to explore alternate options to schooling. And if we do that before high school, it's the most beautiful times to do that. As when we get to high school, we're working towards a diploma, we're working towards gaining credits. Prior to high school, we have a lot of flexibility in exploring education to find what meets a child's needs.
Can I speak to that for a second? I appreciate you bringing it up because this is a conversation I just recently had with my daughter as she was opening up about struggles. I remember that keenly that sometimes it's like, okay, is this normal? Does this require more intervention? What's going on here? Just exploring that with her and just hearing her, being there for her, having her kind of open up about that to really determine what that looked like. As a little background, listeners know I actually really don't like homeschooling. We did it once and it's not my favorite. And I recognize that just what you were saying, that sometimes there's non-traditional approaches, whether that's homeschool, whether that's something else. I have talked to some other parents recently that said they just did it for a short time when there were some maybe social struggles or mental health struggles, whatever that might be. And they were really able to come out of that and grow so much more because they listened to their kids instead of trying to have them fit in this box. And then they were able to move forward with that. So it doesn't mean this life sentence, but it could be something else that fits them better. My daughter is so sensitive and sweet, and it's a strength of hers, but in a setting like a traditional middle school, that might be too much for her right now. And maybe that does mean putting her in a homeschool group, a smaller group, something else with like-minded people for a little bit that she can maybe connect with more. So I love that you are saying, hey, that's okay if maybe your kid needs something a little different for a little while or long term, because I think sometimes we don't want to face that because of what it means for us as parents. And we want it to be simple and easy sometimes. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say my generation didn't grow up with those opportunities. And if you were in traditional school, I actually remember homeschooling being like taboo.
Yeah.
And we as parents have some fear connected to that is ingrained in us, not even purposefully, right? So now being in the school system and experiencing all the different opportunities, I myself have one child that went through private school pre-K through 12, and my other child is in public school, and she is doing just as well, and that is a much better environment for her. So, we are unique, and we have unique needs when it comes to education, and the most important part is that our children are loving learning, and they're engaged in learning and finding success with that. As we go into our career, we will want to continue to learn every occupation. So it's about fostering that love. And if it's an environmental change, that's okay. We would do it in our job in a heartbeat and not even justify it.
Yeah, I love how you switch that. Okay, that's no different than adults. And remember, your little human is experiencing something like this too. I want to reiterate some of those things you said. Is there isolation? Then that's something to look further into. Do they not want to go to school? And how long are these things happening? Is there anything else that you wanted to add for that?
I would really look at just what does my child's day look like? What time are they getting up and what time are they going to bed? And recognizing, is this a concern? How my child is functioning in their day, as opposed to what are their emotions or they're stormed and slammed their door, but then they come out and we are sitting down at dinner and we're back to normal. There are going to be spurts of those high emotion and mood changes. Unfortunately, that also exists in this need for a child to have a fire to live life. If you see your child does not have a fire to live life with that mood change, then I would definitely seek out some professional help, counseling, maybe getting some evaluations, things like that, to just weed out any of that possibility to help relieve some of that stress you may be feeling.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. Do they have that fire to live life? How is their daily functioning? Do they want to go to school? Is there isolation? Different things that we can keep in mind as we're considering, is this normal? Is this not? So the last questions I have for you is going through everything that you've addressed so far. I think we have a pretty good idea what we can do and how we know if they're struggling. But what if we just want to deepen that trust, that connection, and we feel like we're just missing it? For example, I do great with older teens and college students. Like, I love that age, love it. But younger kids, it's just not my forte, which is why I'm so grateful for people like you. And I love them, but I watch my husband and he is so good at wrestling with them and just getting on the floor. it's effortless. And for me, it's not. So, what about those other parents that are in my situation? They dearly love their kids. Maybe they don't love this stage, but they do want to build that connection and that trust, even if that's the case. Do you have any tips on how they could do that where it doesn't feel really awkward?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question to ask. How do we relate to our teen when we don't necessarily love the stage of development that's happening? And there's some frustration, right? We're creating frustration. My number one thing to start with would be having that conversation with your teen
Yeah.
and being transparent. That would be the start of this rebonding and repairing of the relationship. I love to teach that assertive language, which I would even go back to when we are angry at our children, starting with I feel frustrated or I feel afraid, rather than just voicing, you were supposed to be home. If I could retract back to that, I would start with when they walk through the door, I feel really worried when you get home late. That allows the child to develop mindsight. That allows the child to see within your soul. And now they're going to look beyond your facial expressions. They're going to look beyond that anger or the guilt and shame they have for not meeting the expectation. And they're going to connect with you on a human level as opposed to defensive level. So if I have a client who is disconnected with their teen, I would start with, I'm really not sure how to relate to you right now. I'm really not sure how to engage with you. I want to be a part of your world. I want to be a part of your life. I want to connect with you. What do you have ideas? What do you think? And bringing them in and fostering that, because what you're really modeling is a relationship, in an adult relationship where they might have an intimate partner and they are disconnected because of maybe work schedules and whatever is happening. Maybe there's young kids, and often couples will disconnect because we're so busy doing life. We're not connected and we don't love that. We don't love that stage we're in. And we would teach our adult clients, how do we connect? I'm not feeling connected to you. How do we connect? Help me solve this. I want to be a part of your life. I want our relationship to work. Just having that same conversation with an adolescent, they truly are ready to start exploring that, learning it, and having it modeled for them.
That's really great advice. I want to reiterate some of those things again so people remember them. Be honest, be transparent, and that really helps diminish that shame, that defensiveness, which we all see in our kids sometimes, but it's harder to see in ourselves. And improve that mindset by using that I feel language and just modeling what that looks like so that they can continue to do that themselves. I appreciate how you talk about asking for ideas. Such a simple thing, but how many of us really do that with our kids? What do you think? I try to do that, but when it comes to this, I hadn't really thought about that. What do you suggest for ways that we can connect together so that I can better understand you and maybe you can better understand me and just get their feedback? Because sometimes I ask that and they're like, I don't know, but it doesn't ever hurt to try for sure. Really wonderful feedback. I feel like all of the things that you said can help us grow closer to our teens for sure. Again, that safety, that feeling seen, that soothing, that security, and really normalizing some of these stages and how we can recognize if there's a further problem that needs exploring. Lots of great insights. Just in closing, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with us for those that are struggling to connect with their teens beyond maybe what you've shared already?
Do not aim for perfection. It is impossible to not get this wrong in multiple times in our day, in our lifespan with our children. Parenting is never about perfection. It's always about repair, and also giving ourselves permission to get counseling when we are struggling with our teens to help us build that relationship. We came from conformity, and that's how we raise our children, and often a fear-based place of parenting. And as we learn about the brain, as we learn about the child and the needs and how to build security and attachment, it's okay for us as parents to also just go get our own counselor and help us navigate these waters with someone who can support us.
Absolutely. Repair is probably one of those things that I didn't really think much about when I had younger kids, and now I'm learning it a lot more with a middle schooler, a high school, or a college student. I'm learning that I have so many levels of saying sorry and making amends for different things and being humble, and how that can connect me with my kids more and more. You start to just go through the motions so much, and sometimes you don't step back and take as much ownership as maybe you think you are. At least that's how it happens sometimes at our house. And I love that part. I didn't think I would enjoy that about parenting. The after effects of that humility and that repair and how it deepens connection. It's so rewarding. So I'm grateful that you brought that up as well. Carmen, I appreciate you coming on. You did say that you had your Psychology Today link. I'm going to put that in the show notes. Are you licensed in Idaho or any other states?
So,
Okay,
yeah.
so if any of you have any, especially teens, it sounds like, or otherwise, or struggling with a teen, you can reach out to Carmen and I'll put that link in the show notes. Thank you again for coming on the show today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Hey, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode. She was an amazing guest and had some incredible tips on how we can better connect with our middle schooler. I just want to quickly let you know about our internships. If you know anyone that would like to be part of the team and part of our internship experience to learn how to run an online business and help others improve their mental health and wellness, have them or even you email us at hello@fulfillmenttherapy.org. We take on new interns every semester, and it really gives you the experience you need if you're at all interested in that industry and being your own boss and learning the ropes without having to figure it out for yourself. So check that out or fill out our form at fulfillmenttherapy.org. Don't forget, we have new episodes every Monday, and we'll see you back here then.